Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas Construction update video. Well, hey everybody, welcome to Giga Texas on the 21st of November 2022. And on this Monday morning, you can see behind me, it's gray clouds, it's raining, it's actually very cold here this morning, but otherwise I was able to take advantage of coming here a little bit earlier and getting in before the rain really hit. And because of that, I was able to look inside some parts of the factory we haven't seen in a little while. So we'll start off on the southeast side, and as you can see here, we look inside the stamping machine structure. A lot of interesting activity. With this image here, you can see a lot of the rolls of the steel and aluminum that are used to make the body panels for the Model Y. Now, another interesting thing that we get a chance to see is with this image here on the outside, you can see the AIDA stamping machine components that have been stored out here, and these are being assembled inside the stamping extension. Now what you can see here is that many of the parts that have been stored here for a while, particularly the very large ones next to the building, have been moved inside. And with this image here, we're looking inside that stamping extension where they're finishing up the isolation foundation, which is a subterranean heavy foundation to hold up the AIDA stamping press. We can also see that very large Gantry crane that was brought in about a week or so ago, and it's been set up and it's now starting to assemble those very large parts of that AIDA stamping machine. Now, why is this important? Well, this AIDA stamping machine, from what I've been told, will be supporting Cybertruck production, and seeing it being assembled is another major milestone. And just to make sure that people are very clear, this is AIDA. It's a stamping machine. It stamps out body parts. It is not related in any way to the AIDA casting machine that everybody is waiting for and asking me if I can see. That's in a completely different part of the factory. The last part that we're able to look into, I went over to the west side of General Assembly. We looked at the ongoing reconfiguration of that main entrance. And you can see by this image still more of the concrete removal in and around the stairs by the front glass doors. Also, because of the lighting, with this image here, you can see inside this section of the factory quite a bit of materials, equipment, and other items are being stored up on the third floor, and activity on the second floor as well. And also you can see with this image, looking inside close up, the reconfiguration work going just inside the glass of this area of the main entrance. This includes a mezzanine, some interesting floor treatment, and just an overall reconstruction of this facility, probably to make a very nice main entrance for the Tesla headquarters. But otherwise, there's a lot more to see. I was able to fly even with the rain in the area, so not that big of a deal. I had to sort of shorten up a few of the areas that I show, but otherwise quite a bit to see in the video today. As always, thank you very much for watching. I hope you appreciate the video, and let's get ready to get into the main video now. Have a great week. A special thank you to all of my outstanding Patreons for your continued encouragement and support. Patreon members get access to hundreds of high-resolution photos, previews of the future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my channel, please consider becoming a patron using this link, which is also in the video description. Please also consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. So as you can see, this morning is very wet, rainy. Clouds are pretty low, and it was actually pretty cold. But I was also able to get here earlier enough to be able to take advantage of the light so we can look inside some interesting sections of the building. So let's start here on the southeast side, right on the outside of the stamping machine structure. Now all of these parts that you see stored here are part of that AIDA stamping press that's being installed in Stamping Extension that we talked about in the intro, and I'll give you some video of that in just a second. But while we're here, let's take a look into the primary stamping machine structure and see what activity is going on here. Now, the very large white devices are stamping machines of various types. There's a small one on the right-hand side. There's the large one in the middle. That's another AIDA stamping press. And then the two on the left side, I think they are Schuler stamping presses. Now, the crane is lifting up one of the very large dies, and you can see many more of those dies stored in the middle of the overall bay. And this is what is used to stamp out the actual body parts. Now on the bottom of the screen you can see some of these very large rolls of steel. Some of them are aluminum. This is the material that is used by these stamping machines to make the body parts, such as hoods or doors or the hatchbacks, the various parts of the side of the car. So everything other than the castings are made down in this side of the facility. Now as we continue to move along the glass, you can see more of the activity on the center and then now the west bay. And there's 3 overall bays in this entire structure. On the top of the screen you can see many of those red painted bridge cranes that are used to move a lot of the dies and also some of the steel rolls. And here on the left hand side, that small device you see, I think this is a test of the dies before they're actually used in the main stamping presses. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed these views inside the 3 different bays of the stamping machine structure and all of the various stamping machines that are installed and operational here at Giga Texas. So let's pull back a little bit and reposition to take a look inside the construction area called Stamping 2, where we see some very interesting developments with not only the isolation foundation, which is a underground concrete large foundation that is somewhat hollow, and it holds up these stamping presses. And in this particular case, looking inside, you can see the large parts right underneath that portable gantry crane. And these are enormous parts, by the way. The part that's being installed is about as big as a city bus. But you can see how the gantry crane is positioning some of those parts for installation on top of that isolation foundation, some of which still needs to be finished up and put some dirt to level it off and then complete the slab. Now here on the west bay, we can see more activity, more materials. The crews are getting ready for their workday. And about the midway to the very back, there's actually another small isolation foundation that's being constructed as well, and some other materials along with many bridge cranes. So I hope you enjoyed those looks inside this portion of the factory. As I pull the drone away from the factory, you can see more of the concrete removal. Many of these slabs have been taken up since they were saw cut, and they're being stacked here for eventual pickup by some yard trucks and then moved off to the east side where they're storing them temporarily. As we continue the pirouette all the way around, I'm just showing you here where more of the work on the underground electrical conduit is underway. You can see those concrete vaults, and this will eventually replace all of these short power lines and the poles that you see along this road. Now we're going to continue back towards the main factory, and what I want to show you here is how this last remaining center concrete lot appears. As mentioned earlier, you can see the sections that have been saw cut out. You can see another section that has already been saw cut and prepared for that concrete to be removed, and just one small section remaining. So very soon all of this concrete will be removed, and then in this section where you see all the dirt, they recently did some soil tests, and those are now completed. So the engineering crew are preparing to figure out what they need to do to begin some more ground support and then construction. While I'm here, I'm taking the opportunity to look inside the third and the second floor of the General Assembly on the south. Now, this entire section of the building from the ground floor to the third floor has been under heavy internal reconstruction work. Here you can see where the floor has been removed, and then a lot of these steel components and mezzanine, if you will, in the middle of the building has been installed. This is open all the way down to the ground floor, and then the ground floor is where they're installing General Assembly lines 2 and 3 that will add to the General Assembly line 1 already in operation north, a little bit more north of the factory. But anyway, this gives you an idea of just how much progress has been made on the inside of this construction project as well, which is expanding Giga Texas production capability. So I'm going to fly up towards the north along the west side of the General Assembly, and let's take a look at the activity at the main entrance today. So we've arrived at the main entrance and the landscaping section that you see right in front of the drone. I'm going to position the drone around so you can get an overall idea of how this section appears today, and then we'll get closer in and take a look at some of the activity both on the outside and the inside as well. Now here you see where all of the concrete has been saw cut and is being removed, and it's being removed in a very interesting pattern, and we talked about this at length in my previous video. But this time I want to get a little bit closer in to show not only have they been saw cutting the top of the stairs, but look at all of the renovation work or the reconfiguration work that's going on the inside on that ground floor. Not only did they add a mezzanine, but they're also doing some floor treatment as well. And on the third floor, you can see how a lot of the materials, these crates, some equipment are all being stockpiled in this section. You can also see that hanging Model Y that was featured very prominently at the Cyber Rodeo. But as I pull back, this gives you a really good view about how this entire section looks today, what the ground or the concrete where they're removing it, how that appears right now as well. And pretty much all of the concrete and potentially the stairs themselves are about to be removed and reconfigured. And as I move the drone a little bit further to the north, I'll just bring it around just to give you a different perspective of the construction that's going on the outside to reconfigure this main entrance as well. And what I think that they're doing is that they're preparing this to be a very impressive main entrance that would be suitable for the headquarters of Tesla. I'll bring a drone in a little bit closer to give you some views inside the third floor of this particular portion of the factory. Again, this is where they're doing a lot of storing of materials and equipment that will be used as they fit out the production lines that they're building on the bottom floor and now way to the south. And then here is just another view inside where a lot of the structural packs are being stockpiled for later installation, most likely into 4680 variants of the Model Ys. So up here on the roof, I'm going to give you a quick view of the work going on the roof of the body in white section, and this just gives you an idea of how this ductwork and this open section of the building appears. Now, I've had some viewers ask, why do I say body in white? It's because body in white is the term that is used for the section of the factory that makes the actual body that's before it's painted, and it uses the stamped parts that we saw at stamping and the Giga castings that will be made in the northeast corner of the building to make that basic body, and then it will go on for paint. So that's what body in white means. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see those three sections where the concrete's been removed, also where they've added receiving doors, and this is just what the progress appears today. As I turn the drone more towards the north, I'm giving you a good view of this small parking lot. This is being reconfigured in a number of ways. On the bottom of the screen, you can see where the vehicle testing location is, where it's marked out. They also have some rumble strips and some bumps that they'll drive the vehicle over. Now, this entire lot, I believe, is going to be replacing the lot that we saw on the south end with all that concrete removal. And to do that, they need to have some more superchargers. And on the left-hand side of the screen, what I think we're seeing is the crews building these trenches with the conduit and preparing these long banks of what will be superchargers. Now, these may be either moved from that southwest corner of the building that already is there because of the construction that may be going on the south end, or these just may be new superchargers that are delivered, and that's something I will monitor. I'm also giving you a view near this secondary entrance on the east side of the building, and also more of the concrete removal along these receiving doors that have been added. And hopefully in the next couple weeks we'll see that concrete replaced. Now here's an interesting thing I wanted to show you as well as we continue further to the north. This is just on the east side of the casting machine structure. This is where the AIDA castings are made, and you can see that a lot of the castings actually have been used for production, and there's a lot less than we've seen in this section today. So that's another interesting data point for production that is going on at Giga Texas. Now this is the lot that is used for new vehicle staging and the transportation of the trucks off-site, and this is just how it appears today. I'm bringing the drone around onto the east side, give you an idea of how the warehouse on wheels with all of these trailers appears today and what activity is going on. And again, these trailers are used as sort of a temporary warehouse for parts and equipment needed for production, and it also helps speed up the process of truck drivers bringing trailers and then taking them off site. This is the fabrication section that is making these white steel parts, and what most of these are either columns and or what I believe are bridge crane rails, and we saw this in detail on my previous video inside the casting machine structure, so I recommend you take a look at that video from the 18th of November as well. I'm going to bring the drone up further to the north over this temporary parking lot and reposition so that we can go over towards the battery cathode plant. But before we get there, I just want to show you that this old house is still here. It has not been removed despite all of the earthwork that is going on around it. And we also see some more components here at the bottom of the screen, red and white, and some of these are also being moved into the casting machine structure as part of the overall construction going on inside. Now this is that temporary pond that they've constructed with the liner. All of the water, or at least most of it, was taken from the remnants of this pond that you see right at the bottom of the screen. In my previous video, I told you that they were going to be removing this pond by filling in with dirt, and you can see that quite a bit of dirt has been moved in here and the pond is almost completely erased. This middle section is where we've seen a lot of geopier work to strengthen the soil with piers about 15 to 20 meters deep. In addition to that, this large crane is doing some borings, drillings, so that they can do some test mounts for what you see, these orange bars and the two yellow feet. These will be mounted onto those bores, and then it'll be calibrated, and then it'll be used to measure soil deformation, and it will help give the engineers the data that they need to figure out what other strengthening of the soil they need to do before they do construction. So I'm going to pull up towards the north, just to give you an overall view of the entire battery cathode plant on this side today. One of the things that you'll notice is that there's this large white structure that has been erected within the last couple of days, and a lot of the materials here. Now all of this, the canopy, the materials, and all of the structure was located on the west side of the highway in that west staging area, and that is now being emptied out, probably for future construction as well. So it's good to see a lot of those materials coming over here to the battery cathode plant. This is a good view of the temporary platform loading items up to the third floor, and also this steel structure, which is going to have a lot of the piping and most likely the Evapco HVAC components that you'll see on this side of the building just to the upper left, and those will eventually be moved over there for installation. Looking to the north, you can see that clearing location with all of the staged materials and some of the workshops and some of the other vehicles as well. I'm going to turn the drone back towards the building. I'm going to bring it down and show you some of the progress on this steel structure. Note that it's got like a room that's sort of self-standing. It's got some plastic wrap around it. That has been added in the last 48 hours as well. And then this will be a good flight towards the south along the east side, just so you can see how this portion of the battery cathode appears today. So I brought the drone up a little bit higher. I will turn it towards the north just to give you a good view of the overall construction site in and around the battery cathode plant, how the east side appears, and also on the west side where that pond has been removed, that new pond with the liner, and then the groundwork that is going on to prepare for future construction of another structure here next to the battery cathode plant. So let's fly over to the electrical switchyard and see what's going on over there today. So despite the rain and the cold conditions, we can see that crews are active over on the electrical substation or switch yard. Again today, a lot more steel has been assembled, more materials have been delivered. Some of the poles at the bottom are more materials for these A-frame structures that you see. There's currently 4, there will eventually be 7. And you can also see 4 of the installed large circuit breakers. These are the ones that have sort of the V-tops. And there will eventually be 6 of them. 2 of them are being stored just south of the temporary switchyard right now, waiting for installation. You can also see here more steel has been installed on the footings a little bit further to the south. On the right-hand bottom of the screen, you can see 2 more mounts for those circuit breakers. Looks like they're almost ready for installation. And also you can see more steel has been installed on the footings just to the north of these 2 large slabs. These slabs are where the transformers will be installed. And the one on the top, you can see concrete has recently been poured. They have those liners on it to protect it and allow it to cure. And the other one is waiting for concrete to be poured. And here you can see at the bottom of the screen some more of those electronic components that I mentioned. So let's position back towards the main building and take a look at the north end and what is going on up here today. So as we arrive at the northeast corner of the casting machine structure, this is just more of a ground level view of all of those castings that are stored out here, and also how many of them are no longer there that have been moved in and are used for production of Model Ys. As I turn the drone back towards the west, you can see some Model Y parts just hanging out by that wall, and also quite a bit of materials. Many of them are ducting, some of them wrapped up in red, and then some of the green components are what remains for the modular paint section that has been added to Giga Texas. And this is a good view of just how that platform appears, some of the workers up there, and gives you an idea of the size of some of these materials. And at the bottom of the screen, we can see what appears to be more bridge cranes have been delivered. These are smaller ones, probably 10K as far as the capacity. And here at the 4680 production location with the 2 platforms, you can see more materials are being delivered here today as well. As I pull back, this just gives you a good view of the construction going on between the parking lot and the main roadway. But otherwise, the rain is starting to pick up a lot, so I'm going to end the video here today. I hope that you enjoyed this tour, looking inside stamping, the work on the west main entrance, and as always, thank you very much for watching.